A Winnipeg city councillor is calling for a special meeting of a city committee to address the ongoing problem with violence happening around bus shelters. There's been a number of incidents, including people being assaulted near these shelters. Wasn't long ago, a man was found dead inside a shelter at Portage near Edmonton. Shelter at Portage and Gary caught fire due to a temporary encampment. The list goes on. Kevin Klein is the city councillor for Charleswood, Tuxedo, and Westwood. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Clay. I'm sorry to hear that list as you identified some of the more recent incidents of crime that we've seen in our city. It's sad to hear.
So what do we do about this? You know, let's say I'm sitting, and I'll bring this up, and I'm not sure what the solution is. Last week, when it was quite cold, it was, you know, in the minus 30 degree range, and I'm going down Portage Avenue, and there's a bus shelter across the street from Polo Park, right? It's by that A&W there. And I noticed I could see the shopping carts there, and they were full of all kinds of stuff. And you could tell the people inside that shelter were homeless. I mean, the shopping carts surrounding But I also took note there were a number of people these are transit riders waiting to get on the bus. They're going to pay, but it's freezing outside, but they're not about to go into that shelter because of these I'm trying to word this correctly, because these other people are in there. So I don't know what the solution is when it's 30 below, and hey, I'm paying for a city service, but I don't want to go into a shelter.
So all valid points, and I understand the sensitivity of talking about this. First and foremost, it's not just crime on transit shelters. That's what we tend to hear about, or in transit shelters. We don't tend to hear very much about the assaults and issues we're having on transit buses, in addition to what we're seeing downtown. So I think that this is the reason I called the meeting. I have done months and months of research with other jurisdictions, academics that are, studying the field of social issues and others to determine what is the best approach to dealing with this. I do know what Winnipeg's council and mayor are doing is not the right approach. You cannot simply ignore it and hope that it goes away. That is not working. And it's not safe for those residents that are experiencing the most difficult time of their life to be, spending a night in a bus shelter, and it's not safe for those in the area. I want it to be safe for everyone. So that's why I called on this meeting. We need to hear from our residents about what's happening, not only around the shelters, but on the buses. We also need to hear from those stakeholders that work with social services throughout the city. I'd like to hear from the province, but I don't want to hear just, you can't do this and you can't do that, or you should do this and you should do that. I want to start talking about solutions. Enough of ignoring it, enough saying that, we need to do A or B without any real solutions. And that's what I'm hoping for here. We need provincial and federal involvement. We need a real partnership. We need to do a community liaison committee. That's what we need. That's what Edmonton did, and that's how Edmonton's fixing their situation.
There have been a number of cases, Councillor, and I'm sure you've heard it, people high on drugs, getting on buses, pulling out knives, calling all kinds of chaos. Today, by the way, just happens to be Overdose Awareness Day. You apparently have an idea on what might be a solution to be put on transit buses to deal with people who, are high on drugs.
Well, let me be specific and clear on this. The Narcan solution will not address criminal activity or violence on transit. That is a result of certain drugs that people take. People normally suffering from addiction, opioids will lead to an overdose in which Narcan can be used to reverse the effects of that drug, of the opioid. Meth will sometimes cause those situations that you're talking about. Narcan will not help with that. So that's why we need a total transit solution. We need to look at all of it. And with the Narcan, my thought is we need to save lives. Having Narcan on buses, because people are not experiencing addiction just downtown. It's happening all across our city. And having it readily available is my purpose of this motion. This is step one. In every city facilities, every city-owned building, there's a defibrillator. So if somebody has a heart attack, there's a way that you can help. You can run to the defibrillator, and it will walk you through the process. Somebody will help you. Narcan nasal spray is much easier to save a life with than a needle. Not that it's more effective, but it's very difficult to get somebody to inject somebody else with a needle. It's scary. It's difficult. That's why it takes, doctors do training for that. So the nasal spray will help save a life. Maybe it only saves one or two, but that's 100% better than what happens today. So that's why I want the nasal Narcan spray on buses, is to deal with those that have experienced an overdose that you might see in a bus shelter. It might happen on a bus or anywhere, and making it more readily available in city facilities. That's the purpose of the Narcan.
What do we do about crime downtown? A couple of incidents that have come to light. An elderly woman in a wheelchair was attacked in the Skywalk this week. Apparently this was random. Guy just came up from behind and he just punched her in the face. Another guy's waiting for a bus. This was last week, and two guys asked him for a cigarette. He ends up getting slashed in the face, and this is random. Everybody's saying, well, we got to go after the root causes. That could take a long time.
Well, I had a chat with a professor here in Winnipeg that's very knowledgeable on this, and he said there's two avenues, three, you have to take. Number one is the police have to get tough on gangs and drugs, period. They have to get tough on it. We have to support them. We have to take offensive action. We have to get out there and not just simply be reacting to the crimes that are happening, but we have to get out there and we have to let gangs and drug dealers know it's not going to be tolerated in Winnipeg anymore. I'm sorry. Those are the people that are hurting people, the gangs and the drug dealers. Now, we need to also talk to the province and the feds and say we need programs in place and we need beds. We also need recreation funding. We need to fix our court system so that you can't re-arrest your way out of this, and that's what's happening. We're re-arresting, but people can't get into programs to get help. Some people are arrested 2-3 times a week, sometimes more. We have to have the province and the feds take on the holistic side, the healing side. They have to put programs in place, have beds available. The city needs to go after the gangs. The court system needs to help us deal with gangs and drug dealers. We need to get them off the streets now. And then we need to start focusing on kids so that we can change the future. Because kids, unfortunately, get drawn into gangs at the age of 12, sometimes 11 in this city, because they have nothing else they can do. Unfortunately, their families might not be able to afford sports or recreation programs. That is where the city's got to come in. We got to start offering programs for our youth, so that we can change the future, so that we can show them a way. We can keep them out of gangs. That's my plan. And then, of course, there's all of the other social issues that you have to take care of. There's, you want good paying jobs, you want affordable housing. But we have to take the approach. And as this professor told me, you got to focus after the top 100 criminals. Go after them. Find the top 100 residents that need help. We keep a list of people so we know who they are. And then focus on the kids. And while all those programs are working, over the next couple of years, 10 especially, we're going to see a dramatic change. But we need the province to get into action, and we need the feds to get into action.
All right. Thank you for this, Councillor Klein.
Well, thank you so much for the time and talking about it. I know it's an issue nobody wants to talk about. We don't want to talk about crime because we don't want to seem like we're pointing fingers. Crime is crime is crime. And I just want to address the problems we're having in our city. I want a Winnipeg that is safe for everybody. I don't want a government, a leadership to simply ignore these problems and say, well, the more people we put downtown, the better it will be. That's not the solution.
All right. Well, I'm glad you mentioned that just now, because that, to me, ladies and gentlemen, sounds like a man who's going to run for mayor.